So guys, like we have completed the first part of Asia, and we'll be continuing with today the second part. And in this, we will complete our ASEAN, and we'll go to West Asia, and finally we'll finish off Central Asia. And hence, our series of places in news will be completed. And after this, we will be continuing with our questionnaires. Okay. Okay. So ASEAN has been in the news for primarily two reasons. First reason is that one of the new member has been added to your ASEAN members. So initially there were 10 countries, now there is 11 countries. This is one reason. The second reason is, which is even more important, geostrategically ASEAN has been in the news for a number of reasons, be it South China Sea, be it your Malacca Strait, right? So it is a region where always it is in the news. Okay? Okay. Let's dive in then. First, again, this is also one of the most important reasons ASEAN is in the news, that is Thailand and Cambodia fighting again after Trump's ceasefire. Like Trump, obviously, like what they do is that, what he does is that he goes on declaring that the war has ended. I have come and I have mitigated the so-called war, but actually it does not happen such way. It carries on. And the reason why Thailand and Cambodia are fighting is historic, and one of the reason is this particular temple. The temple is very important. UPSC might ask Prasad Priya Bihar temple, right? UPSC might ask this question, that why there is a conflict between your Thailand and Cambodia, right? So one of the major rivers, let's go through the country Cambodia. One of the major rivers here is Mekong River, right? It's very important. One of the major rivers is Mekong River, and this particular lake, UPSC has asked this question. UPSC has asked this question, that does equator pass through the lake? Now, just a revision quickly, immediate revision. In Asia, equator passes through which countries? Technically, it passes through two countries, that is your Maldives and your Indonesia. So if Indonesia is much below, so obviously it will not pass through Cambodia, where you have Tonle Sap. Now you will ask this question. This is very important. You will ask this question, okay, sir, like why did they all of a sudden, give a lake which probably nobody has heard. Like any serious aspirant might not have heard. But this is the catch. UPSC does not do things without reason. There is method in this madness. And why it is important? Because Tonle Sap is the largest freshwater lake in Southeast Asia. It's the largest, as I have said previously also, largest, biggest, highest, right? These are very important, right? These are very important. So it is very important that we know for a particular region which is again the largest. So, but again, you have to be very careful. Okay? In case of Central Asia, is it necessary that we know that largest freshwater lake in Central Asia? Because primarily, like it's a we cannot associate largest freshwater lake with Central Asia. Yes, we can associate range. We can associate largest deposits of gases, uranium. We can deposit that, but with regards to Central Asia, it's very unlikely that UPSC will ask a river or rather a lake which is the largest. But in Southeast Asia, very well they can ask, because again it's very predominantly it is predominant water bodies are present over here, right? Now what is again very important is Cardamom Mountains, right? Cardamom Mountains. So it is present in Cambodia, right? And we have here Vietnam, Myanmar, right? And Phnom Penh. Phnom Penh is your capital of Cambodia. Okay? Now, another thing that it is very important over here you have to understand. Let's understand the conflict of, what is the reason for the conflict, right? Right. We'll come to that a bit later. So first let's understand Thailand. So Thailand also is in the news because of what? Thailand is in the news because it is fighting a war with or there is a conflict between Thailand and Myanmar. Now there are many things that is going on like in Thailand, and which is very important. The first thing that you have to understand, and UPSC has asked this question, is India, Myanmar, Thailand highway. In India, UPSC has asked this question, India, Myanmar, Thailand highway, right? Now, this highway, right? And obviously it has Act East relevance, and you have to understand this, that with regards to IMT, from where it starts, where does that particular highway start in India and where it ends in India, in your Thailand. We'll go through that, right? Before that, we'll see that Thailand, this is Thailand, this region is Thailand, right? Right, this region is Thailand, very important, right? And we have Kra Isthmus over here, right? And this is, supposedly it's being planned as the Isthmus of Kra. It will be, like, it is contemplated as to be the replacement of your, Malacca Strait. But what is the problem with that? Look, in pen and paper, Isthmus of Kra is an important strait for China, because they don't want to depend on your Malacca Strait. So Malacca Strait is down below, right? It's down below. The reason is that Malacca Strait is under the so-called observation of the US, right? It's a very important chokehold, right? And hence, for China, it needs an alternative. And what is an alternative? Isthmus of Kra, the Kra Canal, or the Kra Canal. But there's a problem. The problem here is this, that in pen and paper, it looks very lucrative project and is a very promising project. But the problem here is this, that Thailand is a bit reluctant to have such canal. The reason is twofold. First is that in case of Thailand, the first reason is that the cost to benefit ratio is much less, right? It's huge. It's around 160 billion rupees, billion will be the cost, right? But that is also not the main reason. Another main reason is this: if you see that this is an Isthmus of Kra, right? So basically what will happen, there will be dredging taking place and a canal will be drawn here. Which country would want, tell me, which country would want its, its country gets divided into two sections? This is also another reason why there is reluctance on the part of Thailand with regards to sanctioning this project or materializing this project, right? Now this is a very important river, Chao Phraya River Basin. UPSC might ask that where is this Chao Phraya River Basin? So it is in Thailand, and only Southeast Asian country which has never been colonized, right? It has never been colonized, and more important, constitutional monarchy. It is a constitutional monarchy. That is very important, because UPSC has asked a question. Remember, UPSC has asked a question with regards to what? With regards to Vietnam, right? Whether it's a democratic or it's a communist state, right? Is there a proper democracy there or not, right? So UPSC has asked this question, right? So again, it's very important. Okay. And obviously with Cambodia, it has border tensions because of Priya Vihar temple, right? Now let's understand the IMT. Look, right? Okay. So IMT starts from where? IMT starts from Moreh, and Moreh is where? Moreh is in Manipur. So I would ask you guys, all of you, to do some research about Moreh, right? Why Moreh is important, right? Why Moreh is important, and what is the historical significance of Moreh, right? What is the historical significance of Moreh? So Moreh so this is Imphal, so Moreh will be somewhere here, right? Not sure exactly which section, but somewhere here. So from Moreh, it goes where? From Moreh, now this is important. Here UPSC has framed a question, which is, More, it goes to Mysot. More, it goes to Mysot. UPSC has given in the option Chiang Mai. So this is incorrect. This is correct. What is the easy way to remember? More to Mysot, right? M to M, right? This is the first thing. What is the second thing? The second thing with regards to IMT is that it is entirely land-based, right? There is no there is no ocean component, unlike your Kaladan project. We'll come to Kaladan project as well. Entirely that is land-based. Like it starts from More, it goes to Mysot, right? It is very important to remember that there is no ocean or no sea component to it, right? Okay. Now, let's understand the court dispute. First of all, location. It is located, this particular temple is located in Dangrik Mountains. It is located in Dangrik Mountains, right? Where it is located. Now, with regards, and like ancient Hindu temple on the cliff along the border, right? Now, with regards to the sovereignty of the temple, there is no dispute. With regards to the sovereignty of the temple, there is no dispute. It has been settled already. But what is the reason why it is in dispute is the temple complex. Now, if you see those, Southeast Asian temples, you will have one of the largest spread, like it's very horizontally spread complex, right? Which is the largest temple in the world? Which is the largest temple in the world, right? Is there mentioned? Angkor Wat temple, right? Angkor Wat temple, right? And if you see Angkor Wat temple, more than the height, it is spread, like it's very well spread across, the landscape, right? So in case of this particular temple, Priya Bihar temple, Bihar means the abode of God, right? In case of this particular temple, what happens is that the temple has been given to Cambodia. The dispute has been settled. It is given to Cambodia. But the temple complex is in dispute, right? The adjacent land, that temple complex is in dispute. So in 1962, the temple was awarded to Cambodia. And in 2013, the temple complex, whatever the complex is, was also awarded to Cambodia, right? But obviously, like land is it's a very important commodity. No country wants to lose even like a square inch. So obviously, like your Thailand and Cambodia is fighting, right, for this particular piece of land. Now, let's understand about the temple a bit. So ancient Khmer temple, right? Khmer regime, right? It was like active between like 9th to 11th century, 11th to 12th century, right? Khmer regime. It was dedicated to Lord Shiva. So if you see like most of the Southeast temple, either it was Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva as we find it in India. But what happened later on that like many of the temples were converted into a Buddhist monastery, right? Many of the temples were converted to Buddhist monasteries, right? So it was built between 9th to 12th centuries. So like started building, so completion happened over many centuries, like 3 centuries. Now this is very important unique feature. Unlike Angkor Wat temples, which is again very flat, mostly flat, this particular temple is, it's elevated. It has an elevated layout and UNESCO World Heritage Site 2008, and we have seen UPSC asking questions on UNESCO World Heritage Site. So like the UPSC might ask question that Priya Vihar temple is in which country? So you can confirmly say that Priya Vihar temple is in which country? It is in Cambodia. It is in Cambodia. Okay? Okay. Now, this is very important. Myanmar. Right. Now, in case of Myanmar, you have to understand that there are a couple of things which are very important. First is Tropic of Cancer passes through Myanmar. Very important. Tropic of Cancer passes through Myanmar. It is the only country in Southeast Asia through which Tropic of Cancer passes. It does not pass through Thailand. It does not pass through Vietnam. And obviously, it does not pass through Laos and Cambodia because that wo thoda niche hai, theek hai. It only passes through Tropic of Cancer only passes through Myanmar. Number one. Second is, which other countries it passes through? It passes through China and Taiwan. It passes through China and Taiwan, and obviously in India. So your homework is what? Your homework is to memorize through which state your Tropic of Cancer passes, like through which state from west to east Tropic of Cancer passes. Okay. Now, very important here, because it's a neighboring country, right? We have to understand which are the states which borders. It is Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur and Mizoram, right? So you can remember Nagaland because their concept of Nagalim, some of the section of their Nagalim or some of the territories which they claim should be part of Nagalim, that is your greater Nagaland, right? Comes also from your Myanmar region, right? It comes also from Myanmar region, right? So Manipur, remember, how do you remember Manipur? You remember Manipur because, as I have said, keep from More to, what is the name of that place? Mysot, UPSC question, Mysot, right? From More to Mysot, right? So if it is obviously like if More is in Manipur, so Manipur has to border Myanmar, right? You remember it in this way. How do you remember Arunachal? Like, how do you remember Arunachal? Because Arunachal is in the, very east, right? Is the easternmost, right? So you can remember Arunachal, and obviously Mizoram, right? Mizoram also borders with your Myanmar. Okay? Now, there are certain important rivers which are very important rivers. Right. So first is your Irrawaddy river. UPSC might ask question. Irrawaddy river, right? Very important river is Irrawaddy river. So understand why it is important, because it's a lifeline of Myanmar. Like, it forms delta and is a rice bowl. India's rice bowl is West Bengal. So there's rice bowl is, right, West Bengal obviously, and here we have the rice bowl is because of this particular river, Irrawaddy river. And you have your Irrawaddy dolphin, right? Where do you find Irrawaddy dolphin in India? It is found in Chilika Lake. So this can also be a kind of a trap question, that Irrawaddy dolphins are found where? So it is also found in Chilika Lake. That you have to also know. Another river is Salween river. So it's not a very navigable river because it's a very fast flowing river. And then your Sitang river, right? So first you have your Irrawaddy river, then Salween and Sitang. Remember these rivers, which are very important, right? I will come to the Kaladan project, but before that, you have to understand the mountain system. It's very important. So you have your Arakan Yoma, that is in Rakhine Coast Barrier, right? Arakan Yoma. It's very important that you locate where Arakan Yoma is, and then you have your Chin Hills and Patkai Hills, right? Chin Hills and Patkai Hills, they separate India from Myanmar. Again, very important, right? Now, Rakhine, this term is important. Why? Rakhine is important because of Rakhine State. Rakhine State, right? Rakhine State, and huge amount of or number of your migrants spill over to India from this particular. So they are the Rohingyas, right? Which is in the news, or which remains in the news. Okay. Now let's come to this project, Kaladan Multimodal Transport Project. Now this is very important. Remember what I said in case of IMT, that it was entirely landed project. Like it has no sea component to it. It has no sea component to it. In this particular project, we have a sea component. Where do we have a sea component? Let's understand. Look, so here we have Kolkata. Remember, with regards to your IMT project, it starts from where? Manipur, More. It goes where? Mysot. Here it starts from Kolkata, right? Here you have your Hooghly River, right? My house is just 5 minutes from Hooghly River, right? It's very near, right? So it's a distributary. It's not a tributary, it's a distributary, right? Now, so here we have this sea component of your Kaladan project. This is a sea component of Kaladan project. Now, the purpose of Kaladan project is what? The purpose of Kaladan project is to connect to the northeast. is to connect to the northeast. To the northeast. And the purpose of IMT was to connect southeast through northeast. Understand, very important. There, in case of Kaladan project, I want to connect which place? Aizawl. I want to connect Aizawl, right? And I want to connect Aizawl through, obviously, your mainland India, that is Kolkata. I don't like this word mainland India. Every section of the land is mainland India, but still, right? So here we connect to the northeast part, and here we have the sea component, right? And then here we have the river component, and then we have the road component. So like it's sea, river, road, many components are there, right? Kaladan project, remember this Kaladan project. Another very important thing that you have to remember is this, that this particular region, the Kachin state, again, it is a conflict in news, and this is your UPSC PYQ. This is your UPSC PYQ. They have given this term and said that Kachin state is where, right? So remember the kind of name, it's Kachin state, the sounding of the name. So it is in Myanmar and it borders China. It borders China. Okay? Okay. Okay. Let's move ahead. Let's come to Laos. Laos, like primarily, like we'll just read, understand Laos. Couple of things that you have to understand. It's the only landlocked country in ASEAN. Only landlocked country. So UPSC might ask, which is the only, like they might ask which are the landlocked countries and which are the doubly landlocked countries. Which are the doubly landlocked countries, guys? Which are the doubly landlocked countries? We have studied Liechtenstein and Uzbekistan, doubly landlocked, because it is again landlocked by another country, which is also landlocked, right? So they might ask you which are the landlocked countries, and they might give Laos, and you would have thought, no, Laos probably opens into South China Sea. No, it does not. It does not open into South China Sea, right? So Laos is again your only landlocked country in the entire ASEAN region or ASEAN country, right? Remember this Annamite range. This is very important. Annamite range. Remember this, right? Remember this as Annamite range, and it's known as a battery of Southeast Asia because dam-based energy. Like there are too many dams, and they export energy as well. Like for example, Bhutan also, right? In case of Bhutan, Bhutan also exports energy to India, right? So, and because of the fast-flowing rivers, mountainous region, fast-flowing rivers, and India has invested also in Bhutan's hydropower projects, right? Again, very important, Mekong River lifeline. Mekong River is like again spread across. It's very important, and importantly, this is very important. You see, this region we have heard. This region we have heard, right? It's called Golden Triangle. Now the word golden has been removed. So it is official because it has come in PIB. And Amit Shah ji, our Home Minister, has said that now we'll not call it a Golden Triangle or a Golden Crescent. We'll call it the Death Triangle and Death Crescent, right? Death Triangle and Death Crescent. So this is again very important. Now this particular region is a confluence, Mekong River. This is a confluence where Laos, Myanmar and Thailand, right? They meet, and this is like again a very nefarious region where you have what? You have your opium growth, right? Okay, okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now it's Vietnam. UPSC's question. So it is not a democracy. It is not a democracy. Remember what happened to US. US wanted to institute democracy. So there was this huge Vietnam War. If you remember, you're too young to remember, or probably you don't know. Like there was a Vietnam War, and basically the capitalists were fighting the communists, right? And that was one of the unsuccessful or failure of US, right? As the invasion, which again they're doing invasion in Iran, right? And it's a single party authoritarian political system. It's not a democracy. And UPSC's asked this. It's a single party authoritarian political system, right? And so exporters are like rice and coffee, and again, we have discussed about Paracel and Spratly Islands. We have discussed about the Paracel and the Spratly Islands, right? Remember, which comes from north to south, right? Which comes from north to south. Paracel, Spratly, Scarborough, which comes from north to south. Remember, very easy to remember. P comes first, so Paracel is above, right? Then SC and SP, right? SC and SP. So Scarborough comes in between, and then comes your Spratly. So Spratly is down south, just above, उसके ऊपर है आपके Scarborough Islands, उसके ऊपर है आपका Paracel Islands. Remember that, right? We have gone through this. Major river is a Red River, and this is very important. Mekong, Southern Delta. So like here, like why it is important, because this is where your Mekong River forms the delta. This is where it opens into the South China Sea. This is your South China Sea. This is your South China Sea, right? So it drains into South China Sea through your Vietnam. So the southern part of Vietnam is your southern part of Vietnam. You have your dominated by what? Dominated by Mekong. And the northern part, Red River. Just see the northern part, the Red River. It is dominated obviously by Red River, right? So Red, northern, and you have your, in the southern part you have your Mekong River. Okay? Okay. Now let's come to one of the largest countries, one of the densest countries in the world, and that is your Indonesia, right? Indonesia. Now it is in the news because Indonesia has entered agreement with India to procure BrahMos missiles, right? Right. Remember BrahMos missiles, like what is the range of it, what kind of fuel that it uses, right? And also remember more than that, remember that how it was used in Operation Sindoor. BrahMos missile was used in Operation Sindoor, right? Now it is the largest archipelago in the world. It is the largest archipelago in the world. Now this is a very important understanding you have to have. Look, there are even bigger archipelagos than Indonesia. इससे भी बड़ा है archipelago. But this is an archipelago which is what? It is a country. One of the, like, इससे भी बड़ा archipelagos you will find in Norway, you will find in the northern hemisphere, like in the, near Greenland, near Norway. They are the big archipelagos. That they are not individual countries, right? It is an individual country which is like, it has over 17,000 islands. Can you imagine? Now what you have to remember? You have to remember the major islands: Sumatra, Java, Borneo, Indonesia, Sulawesi and Papua, right? This is something that you have to remember. This is something we have to remember, and we will remember because UPSC has asked a question. UPSC has asked a question. Look, first is your Sumatra, right? First is your Sumatra. Remember it by the fact that Sumatra is very Indian name, so it is close to India, right? Then you have your Java, right? This is your Java. Here you have your Bali. This is your Bali, a destination spot, right? Right. Okay. So here you have Sumatra. Here you have Java. This is your Borneo Island. Now this is one of the most important island in the world. I tell you the reason why. It's one of the largest, by the way. In this particular island, you have 3 countries. Obviously, you have this Borneo. Borneo is individually not a country. This is entirely a Borneo island. Borneo, the southern part of Borneo is part of what? Southern part of Borneo is part of Indonesia. It is part of Indonesia, right? Then you have your Malaysia over here. You have Malaysia. And a tiny section, a sliver, S-L-I-V-E-R, sliver, new word, a sliver portion of this entire Borneo island is Brunei. Brunei Darussalam, right? Darussalam, right? Brunei Darussalam. So you have 3 countries in Borneo Island. One is your Malaysia, one is your, obviously your Indonesia, and Brunei, right? And Brunei is very oil rich. It's very oil rich. Okay. So Sumatra, near India. Then you have your Java. Remember Java, Bali, right? Then you have your entire Borneo Island. In Borneo Island, remember that it has 3 countries. One obviously is your Indonesia, right? Then you have your Malaysia, and here you have your Brunei. All 3 countries are part of ASEAN. Then you have your Sulawesi Island. This is your Sulawesi Island. The entirety of Sulawesi Island is part of which country? It is part of your Indonesia. Entirety of Sulawesi Island. Entirety of Sulawesi Island is part of which country? Entirety of Sulawesi Island is part of Indonesia. Indonesia, Sulawesi, Indonesia. Remember. Then again there is another exception here, Timor Island. So in Borneo you had 3 countries. Which were the 3 countries? Jaldi se. Indonesia, Malaysia and Brunei. And in Timor Island you have 2 countries. One is Timor-Leste. It is in the news because it has entered your ASEAN. Second is again Indonesia. Sabhi jagah par hai. He is everywhere, right? Omnipresent. He is omnipresent, right? Is there another country of such manner? Yes, of course, there is another place. So here you have your Guinea Island. So this New Guinea, this is part of your Indonesia, and then you have your Papua New Guinea. It's another different country. Okay, so let's go through the right. So as we discussed, Sumatra nearer to India, Java, Bali, remember Java, Bali, Borneo, so Kalimantan region, that part is called Kalimantan region, right? Borneo, 3 countries. Which are the 3 countries? We have Malaysia, we have Brunei, and obviously we have Indonesia. Then Sulawesi and Papua. So Sulawesi is also there, Papua is there, and Timor-Leste is also there, right? Remember Timor-Leste also. Timor Island. A portion is Indonesia, another portion is your Timor-Leste. It's a very small country, right? Now, where is this famous volcano situated? This famous volcano situated? It is situated in Indonesia. So, Krakatoa volcano, very important, Krakatoa, and obviously it is along the Pacific Ring of Fire. We don't have to remember this. We know that Indonesia is along the Pacific Ring of Fire, the entire Pacific region, which borders Eurasia and your America region, right? So that is your Aleutian Islands and your that region, right? Andes Mountains and all, right? These are all part of what? Part of Pacific Ring of Fire. And every now and then we get the news of Pacific Ring of Fire, right? Now, important states, we have already discussed these states, will not discuss it further. Malacca State, Sunda State, Lombok State, right? Natuna Island also, we have discussed Natuna Island. It has issues not with the island per se, but with what? With the EEZ. With the EEZ, which clashes with the 9-dash line of China. So you remember this Natuna Island. Conflict region. Again, conflict region. Natuna Island, remember conflict, right? Now this is very important. Indonesia is both a Southeast Asian country and a transcontinental, so Southeast Asia is a transcontinental country. And which were other transcontinental countries? The other transcontinental countries were your Egypt, between Africa and Asia, right? You have Russia, obviously, Europe and Asia, and we have another country, Turkey, right? Turkey, between Europe and Asia, right? Remember that. It is also a transcontinental country. And why it is transcontinental country? Let's understand this. Very important. Transcontinental, like Asia and Oceania, right? Asia and Oceania. So till here it is Asia. The characteristics is of Asia till here. So there is a line. So till here, so the New Guinea part, which is part of Indonesia. So this is part of Indonesia. Remember, this is part of Indonesia, right? And here you have your Papua New Guinea. So there is a line here, right? Papua New Guinea, right? You cannot see it; it is beyond, right? So this section is your Oceania, which has your Australia, New Zealand, that section also, right? Now, very important, remember Java Sea over here. You can remember Java Sea. You have your Banda Sea and your Timor Sea, right? Timor Sea, remember, Australia and Timor, it's obviously near your Timor-Leste or Timor Island, right? Okay. Okay. Now, what are some of the features, right? So another thing is that the Indonesian government has shifted their capital from where they have shifted their capital from Jakarta to Nusantara or Nusantara, right? Nusantara. It is in East Kalimantan. So we have seen that island, right? So this part. So basically, like, so this part is your Malaysia. This is your entirety Indonesia. So you have divided into Kalimantan Islands. So the eastern part is, this eastern part is, here you have the newly shifted capital, right? What is the newly shifted capital? The newly shifted capital is your Nusantara, right? It is in this part, right? And this is obviously your Timor-Leste, right? This is your Timor-Leste, right? And another important thing is that Rafflesia arnoldi. Like I think you have all studied Rafflesia arnoldi in your school days, right? It's one of the largest flowering plant, right? And which are other parasitic plants? Which are the other, like some example of parasitic plants? Some example of parasitic plants, right? Pitcher plant, right? Pitcher plant is one. Venus flytrap is one, right? So these are parasitic. And Komodo dragon, remember Komodo dragon is world's largest Komodo dragon. And orangutan is endemic to Sumatra and Borneo. Very important. It's endemic to Sumatra and Borneo. Okay? Okay. So Sumatra is entirely Indonesia. Borneo, we have 3 countries over there. Remember that. Largest palm oil, world's largest producer, right? UPSC's questions, nickel's world's largest producer, UPSC's question, right? And remember cloves, Indonesia. Cloves, Indonesia, world's largest. Cloves, Indonesia, world's largest producer is Indonesia, right? And palm oil along with Indonesia, we have also, which other country from where India imports palm oil? It is Malaysia, right? These 2 countries. Okay? Okay. Right. So the only few things that you have to understand. So you have your peninsular Malaysia. So the country Malaysia is divided into 2 parts. You have your peninsular Malaysia. This is your peninsular Malaysia, right? And peninsular Malaysia obviously borders Thailand, right? And again, you have your East Malaysia on the Borneo Island. So this is the 2 section. This is the 2 section. So this is one Malaysia and this is the other Malaysia, right? Just remember this. Okay, okay. In Singapore, it is very important to understand that obviously because of Strait of Malacca, and so it's an island city-state. It's an island city-state, and it has equatorial tropical climate because it's very near your equator. As we said, we discussed it. Equator passes through Indonesia. Okay, so remember this. Now, again a very important country, UPSC has asked. UPSC has asked about what? Conflict region. Conflict region is this conflict region. Mindanao, resource rich and mountainous. This is the conflict region. So major islands are Luzon. Remember, we have studied about Luzon Strait. So this is your Luzon Strait. It connects your South China Sea. Luzon Strait connects South China Sea with which? Pacific Ocean, right? Very important. And this is your Luzon Island, right? This entirety is your Visayas Island. This is your Visayas Island. And this is your Mindanao Island. So this is your Luzon, Visayas and Mindanao, LMB or LVM, sorry, LVM, right? Remember. And this is a conflict region. Why? Because the primarily Philippines is Roman Catholic, and this section is Islamic. So that is another reason why it is again a conflict area. Now, extensive coral reef system, and it's part of Coral Triangle. Now, can you tell me whether Australia is part of Coral Triangle or not? Excellent. Australia is not part of Coral Triangle. Australia is not part of Coral Triangle, and we'll see which countries are part of Coral Triangle, right? And typhoon prone areas, obviously, right? We have studied it, typhoon prone areas. Now, let's see the Coral Island. Now, the countries which are part of the Coral Island, very important, is Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, Timor-Leste. Remember, Timor-Leste, this is the island. Half part is Timor-Leste, the other half part is of Indonesia, and Papua New Guinea, right? And Papua New Guinea. So Papua New Guinea, so again, this is a Guinea island. Half part is your Indonesia, the other part is Papua New Guinea. Australia is not a part. Australia is not a part. Just see the dotted lines, red dotted lines, right? This is the triangle, right? This is the triangle. Australia is not part of the triangle. Okay? It's not part of the triangle. Okay? Okay. Now Brunei, we have discussed Brunei. It's part of Borneo Island, right? And like we'll understand Brunei a bit because geographically and environmentally, ecologically, it's very important. So we have Borneo Island over here. We have Borneo Island, again, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, and it's bordered by Malaysia on the land and South China. So entirely, so like it does not share a border with Indonesia. Remember, UPSC might frame a question, it share a border. No, it does not share a border with India, right? It is your Brunei. It is your Brunei, right? And it is entirely engulfed. It is entirely surrounded by which country? Malaysia. And it is part of Borneo. So one of the oldest tropical rainforests in the world, 130 million years old. It's 130 million years old. And it's a part of Sundarland biodiversity hotspot, which again, your Northeast India also comes under this, not Northeast India. If you have to just check. It also, like India is also part of the Sundarland biodiversity, right? And obviously, we have discussed previously Borneo orangutan. Apart from Borneo, which is another island where this critically endangered endemic to Southeast Asia is found, it is Sumatra. It is Sumatra. Remember that. It is Sumatra, right? Now, I want you to do a homework. Orangutans are the great apes. So, you have lesser apes, you have great apes. And UPSC has asked a question on apes. It's a favorite area. UPSC has asked questions on apes. Now, what are the apes? Like, what are the UPSC has asked about bonobo, right? Bonobo. Do research. What kind of ape is a bonobo, right? What kind of ape is a bonobo, right? Okay. Okay. ठीक है. चलिए, let's move ahead. Now, Timor-Leste. Now, why Timor-Leste? Again, I have said previously, Timor-Leste joins ASEAN as the 11th member, right? And it lies between Timor Sea and Banda Sea. So as I've said, so you have your Banda Sea over here and below you have your Timor Sea, right? Banda Sea is over here. Banda Sea is over here and Timor Sea, as I've said, it's near Australia, below, right? It is Timor Sea and Banda Sea, right? Okay. Okay, important. Okay. And it is one of the richest country because of copious amount, huge amount of significant oil and natural gases reserves are found here. Okay? Okay. Another fact is, one of the unique feature is that it is one of the youngest nation because it got its independence from which country? It got its independence from Indonesia, because this part is your Indonesia, as I've said previously, right? This part is your Indonesia, right? This part is your Indonesia. Now there is another feature, very important, very important. This is an what? This is an exclave. This is an exclave of which country? It is an exclave of East Timor. It's an exclave of East Timor. Okusi, right? Or Oekusi, right? It's an exclave. And which are the other exclaves you have studied about? You have studied about which other exclaves that we study about? Cabinda of Angola, separated by DRC. That. We have studied about which another exclave that starts with K, Kaliningrad, right? Lithuania, Poland, right? Between Lithuania and Poland. And it is exclave of which country? It is the exclave of Russia, right? We have studied exclaves, right? So remember, there were other couple of exclaves that we have studied. Remember those exclaves, right? And in case of East Timor, do we have an exclave? Of course, we have an exclave, and the exclave is Oekusi, right? Oekusi. Okay. Okay. Now let's come to West Asia. Okay. Now we very well know that this time West Asia is in the news, and with regards to the developments that are happening in West Asia, right? The war that is happening in West Asia, the geopolitical conflicts that is happening in West Asia, right? So each and every section of West Asia is important, right? And the term West Asia, it's not our term. We say Middle East, some say West Asia. So West Asia is actually a colonial term, or a term that is US has given. So it's like there is Asia, and then there is West Asia, that's West Asia, right? So this is the first thing. The second thing is that you have to remember that with regards to West Asia, UPSC has asked lots and lots of questions, right? Primarily border questions. Now this is very important. Primarily it has asked border questions, that this particular country borders, this particular country. Like particularly if you remember, it was like Israel borders country, like Israel share borders with which country? Lebanon shares borders, or does Lebanon opens into a Mediterranean Sea? Like these are the questions UPSC has asked. So we will not just only do the borders, which is very important. Along with the borders, we have to go through each and every aspect of the development of West Asia, and we'll do a very thorough analysis of West Asia. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, the first thing is this, that if you see this particular map, it's very it's very cluttered, right? It's very cluttered. So first, let's break this map. It is very important to break this map. We have talked about the transcontinental country, and which country? Egypt. It is transcontinental because it shares a section of Sinai Peninsula, which is part of your West Asia or Asia. So it's a transcontinental country, right? Right. This part is Arabia. Entire part is Arabia, right? Arabia in the sense, like for example, you have your Saudi Arabia over here, or then other countries like Arabian Peninsula countries, right? You have your UAE over here. Then it's very small. I don't know whether you can see it. You have your Qatar over here. You have your Bahrain, unse bhi chota hai, okay? Then you have your Kuwait and obviously Iraq, right? Is Iran part of Arabic countries? No, it's a Persian country, right? It's not part of an Arabic country, right? So here you have Syria, right? Just below Syria we have Jordan. Here we have Lebanon. So Lebanon shares border with Mediterranean Sea. It does share border with Mediterranean Sea, right? Does Syria share border with Mediterranean Sea? It does share border with Mediterranean Sea. Dekho. Does Jordan share border with Mediterranean Sea? It does not share border. So UPSC trap question, that Jordan shares border with Mediterranean Sea. It does not share border with Mediterranean Sea, but it shares border with which sea? Red Sea, a small sliver, this part, Gulf of Aqaba. Here you have Gulf of Suez. Now this is very important. Here you have Gulf of Suez, which connects to Suez Canal with Mediterranean Sea. Here you have Gulf of Aqaba. Remember, right hand side is Gulf of Aqaba, left hand side is Gulf of Suez. A portion of here, we have Jordan has an opening with your Red Sea. And which another country has opening this particular region? Israel. So Israel has opening not only with the Red Sea, right? It has also opening with the Mediterranean Sea. Dekhiye, this is Israel, right? This is Israel. This is Israel. It has opening in the Mediterranean Sea. It has opening here in Gulf of Aqaba, and through that, the Red Sea. It is very important, right? Another important thing that you have to remember here is that does Israel, now very important, does Israel share a border with Turkey? No, it does not share border with Turkey because two countries come in between. Which are the two countries which comes in between? The two countries which comes in between is Syria and and here your Lebanon. Now remember which are the countries which borders Israel. Now this is very important. Which are the countries which borders Israel? So Israel does not share border with which? It does not share border with Turkey. But does Israel share border with Iraq? No, it does not share border with Iraq. Does Israel share border with your Arabia? Saudi Arabia? No, it does not share border with Saudi Arabia. Right? Right? It does not share border with Saudi Arabia. And hence, which are the countries which it shares borders with? It shares borders with, first, it shares borders with Lebanon. How do you remember Lebanon? Which particular terrorist organization, United Nations declared terrorist organization? Hezbollah. Hezbollah is active in Lebanon, right? Very recently, last year, its leader was killed in targeted precision strike, right? Which another country which borders with Syria, with Israel? It is Syria. It is Syria. It is Syria. Syria borders with which country? Syria borders with Israel, or Israel borders with Syria. And how do you remember? You remember that it has captured one of the portion of Syria, that is Golan Heights, which is Golan Heights, right? Which is Golan Heights, and we'll discuss Golan Heights in detail. Which is another country which shares borders with Israel, that is your Jordan. So you have your Lebanon, you have your Syria, you have your Jordan. But is it so? Only three countries? Of course not. Of course not. It has Egypt also. Remember when you were doing Egypt, it shares borders with which area? Gaza, right? We have your Erez crossing, we have your Philadelphia crossing, right? These are the crossings which connects Egypt to Israel. So four countries shares land border with Israel, which are the four countries: Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, right? Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. Remember, right? Now, once we have understood this, let's revise the Caucasus. So here you have Georgia. Georgia share borders with Russia. Remember, there were two areas, two conflict regions in Georgia. Two conflict regions in Georgia, right? Like go to your lecture and see which are the two regions which are in conflict in with conflict regions in Georgia. Then you have your Armenia. Then you have your Azerbaijan. Armenia and Azerbaijan. And here we have another exclave of Azerbaijan. You have another exclave. So like we are dealing with exclaves. We have here another exclave of Azerbaijan, right? And does it share borders with Iran? Yes, Iran shares borders with your Turkey. It shares borders with Armenia. It shares borders with Azerbaijan. Remember that, right? And Zangezur corridor, we have heard about Zangezur corridor, which starts from Azerbaijan, which is very close to Turkey. Turkey and Azerbaijan, they are very close. It's supposed to connect your Azerbaijan with your which country? With your Turkey, right? With your Turkey. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room to be discussed is Iran. We'll discuss in details. Remember this particular mountain, Zagros mountain. We'll discuss other mountains as well, right? Now, this is something which has been dominating the news, Strait of Hormuz. Okay? So, mota, like we have understood, like we have broken down the map. Now we'll go to the individual aspect of it. Right? Okay. The first thing, US-Israel attack Iran's Natanz, the nuclear facility, right? It attacks Natanz. So 12-day war. There were three facilities that US had attacked. Which are the three facilities that were attacked? The three facilities that were attacked were these three. right? So Fardo, Natyans and Isfahan. Fardo, Natyans and Isfahan. These are the three nuclear sites or nuclear center which the US attacked, right? Remember this, very important, right? Now, okay, we'll start with Israel, right? So first is obviously it's part of West Asia and Levant region, a very important. What does this Levant mean? Levant in Italian means elevated. It's raised, right? Now let's identify the Levant countries. Which are the Levant countries? Look, because Levant region, it is not that a single country will be a Levant country. A portion of a country can be a part of Levant country. So this is your Levant region. This is your Levant region, right? Now let's understand. Is Egypt part of Levant region? Of course, Egypt is part of Levant region. Of course, Egypt is part of Levant region because a portion of Egypt, which portion? Sinai Peninsula, a portion of Egypt is part of Levant, right? Then, is Jordan part of Levant? Of course, Jordan is part of Levant, right? Is Syria part of Levant? Yes. Turkey part of Levant? Yes. So, this particular section, and obviously your Israel and your Lebanon, they are also part of Levant, right? They are part of your Levant region, very important, right? Now, Israel, we have discussed ki Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. We will not forget, right? Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt. Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt. We will not forget. Important regions, Gaza Strip, remember, for the last 2 years, it is in the news, 2 years, it is in the news, right? 7th October, Hamas attacked Israel, right? After that, it has been in the news, right? So this, as we have discussed previously, that Israel borders with Egypt, West Bank, east of Israel. Now, this is a misconception people have that, in case of West Bank, where is West Bank situated? So, this is your Jordan River, right? This is your Jordan River. And why is it called West Bank? This is your Jordan River. Just a second. This is your Jordan River. West of Jordan River is your West Bank. West of Jordan River is West Bank. Remember it in this way, right? And of course, this is your Jordan. This is your Jordan, right? Okay. Now, so Jordan, West Asia, we have Israel, we have West Bank, which is west of your Jordan River. Then East Jerusalem. It is again a disputed river with a disputed region with regard to the capital. Now, why Jerusalem is important? Because in Abrahamic religion, this particular city has a huge religious importance. This particular city has a huge religious importance. What is the religious importance in this particular city? The first is that for the Islam religion, we have the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? For Christianity, it is supposed that Christ was crucified here, right? And buried, and he resurrected after 3 days, right? And then for your Judaism or Jewish faith, it is said that the temple wall, the Solomon's, the God's temple was built here, right? And the remnant of that temple is the second temple. So basically, Solomon built the first temple. Solomon was one of the prophets, one of the kings of in the Old Testament, right? It was destroyed. And the second temple, which was the remnant of the second temple, is already there, right? Okay. Now, this is a very important section. It's called Golan Heights. Now, why Golan Heights is important and it has been occupied by whom? It is occupied by Israel, and Golan Heights technically belongs to Syria, and it is occupied by Israel. And why it is important? The reason is very simple. The reason is this, that it serves two purposes. One is that strategically it gives a elevated portion of to Israel. Now, when you are occupying an elevated portion, like, you are in the benefit, right? The second is this water sources, because like many, so it has a big catchment area, so water rainfalls happens, and many rivers originates from here, right, in Golan Heights, right, because and we have discussed some of the heights named in Africa also, right. So many rivers originate. So again, water wise also, because it's a desert region, right, Levant is a desert region, right, so it becomes very important. Okay. So in case of physical geography, let's understand. So first we have Dead Sea is the lowest point on earth shared with Jordan. Dead Sea, again, the reason is that it's a high salinity, right? 35% is your salt. Usually it is 3.5%. Usually it is 3.5%, but like in case of the Dead Sea, it is 35%. And because the density is so high, you tend to float. And because you tend to float, it's termed as Dead Sea. And Dead Sea is historically also very important. Historically important because we have seen that Dead Sea scrolls were found nearby, right? Dead Sea scrolls are also very historically very important documents, right? Jordan River flows into the Dead Sea, right? Where does Jordan River flows into? The Jordan River flows into Dead Sea. Remember that Jordan River, Dead Sea. Just we'll see once. Where is it? This one only, I guess. Yeah. So this is the Dead Sea. Jordan River flows into the Dead Sea, right? Jordan River flows into the Dead Sea, right? And where does it originate? Jordan River originates in Lake Tiberias. It's also called Sea of Galilee, right? Sea of Galilee or Lake Tiberias. It originates in Sea of Galilee or Lake Tiberias, right? And it drains into where? It drains into, this is the Dead Sea. It's surrounded. It's very saline, right? Gulf of Aqaba, we have discussed, is a northern extension of the Red Sea. It's a northern extension of the Red Sea. It is the right hand side. Remember, it's in the east. It's in the east, and the west is your obviously Gulf of Suez, right? And port of Eilat located on the Gulf of Aqaba, right? Port of Eilat. Remember, which is another country we have remembered? Jordan. Jordan has also opening in your Red Sea through Gulf of Aqaba, right? Which is another country which has opening, that is Israel. Right? Israel also has an opening, and which is the port of Eilat. Port of Eilat is very important. Port of Eilat, right? It has a strategic importance. Okay. Now let's come to Gaza Strip and West Bank. These are again the conflict areas. So Gaza Strip, we already know that it like is a part of Palestinian territory, and it shares borders with Egypt, and it's like it's in the Mediterranean. Does it share border with Mediterranean Sea? Of course, it shares borders with Mediterranean Sea. In case of West Bank, east of Israel, it is landlocked. West Bank, it is east of Israel, it is landlocked. Very important, right? And east of Israel, but west to what river? West to Jordan River. Jordan River originates where? It originates in Sea of Galilee or Lake Tiberias, and it drains into where? It drains into one of the world's, not one of the world's largest, the world's densest, sea. That is your, obviously, Dead Sea. 35% of salt in water. Well, usually it is 3.5, right? So remember these important areas. You have your Rafah, right? Rafah is a very important region, right? And then your Khan Yunis. Khan Yunis was a major area which was in conflict, and like UPSC might frame a question, ki Khan Yunis is where, right? So it is not in your Southeast Asia, or it is not in your Central Asia. It is where? It is in the particular region where it is in. It is in, exact region is Gaza. It is in Gaza. It was completely leveled. It was completely destroyed, right? And Jordan River separates West Bank and Jordan. We have already studied this, right? Okay. Okay. ठीक है. Now, if we have to discuss Iran, we have to discuss, we have discussed Israel, we have to discuss Iran, right? There's no way out. Now, obviously, Iran has been in the news for many reasons, right? First is that last year there was a strike 12 days war that happened, right? It was a kinetic war where, there were active bombardment, missiles were, directed to each other. So that was bad. That was bad. And this year also, there was a second the continuation of the previous mission, Operation Epic Fury. Remember Operation Epic Fury, right? Now, where it is located located in West Asia, north of Persian Gulf, south of Caspian Sea. Let's see the image, right? So, north of Persian Gulf, where is Persian Gulf? Very important. Obviously, this is your Persian Gulf, right? And where is your Caspian Sea? Caspian Sea will be here. This is your Caspian Sea. This is your Caspian Sea, and here you have your, where is it? Persian Gulf, right? It is between Caspian Sea and Persian Gulf. Remember that, right? Another important thing is, like, which are the borders? Now, very important. Like, UPSC has asked question on Afghanistan. Afghanistan shares borders with which country? Afghanistan shares borders with which country, right? Does it share border with India? Of course, it shares borders with India. Of course, through Wakhan corridor, right? Through Wakhan corridor, we'll study that, right? Now, which are the countries through which it shares its border? Okay. Now, let's see one by one. Of course, we have Pakistan, we have Afghanistan, right? Pakistan, Afghanistan. Then we have Turkmenistan, right? We have Turkmenistan, right? Now, this is very important because UPSC has asked a question, right? Remember PAT, P-A-T, remember PAT, P-A-T, PAT, right? Pakistan, Afghanistan and Turkmenistan, right? Then it shares borders. Then we have here your entirety of Caspian Sea, right? Here you have entirety of Caspian Sea. Which are the Central Asian countries? We'll quickly revise. Central Asian countries, how do you remember? Kazakhstan, big country, right? One of the largest countries in the world, Kazakhstan, then UK, TT, UK, U for Uzbekistan, K for Kyrgyzstan, TT, T, which is near to Turkey. Here you have Turkey. Look, here you have Turkey. Here you have Turkey. Nearer to Turkey will be what? Nearer to Turkey will be Turkmenistan. And if one T is for Turkmenistan, the other T is for Tajikistan. Tajikistan is also in the news because India vacated its operational base from there, right? We'll study that also, right? Okay, PAT. Remember PAT. Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan. Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, right? On the eastern side of Iran, right? And then you have your Caspian Sea. You have your Caspian Sea. Caspian Sea is also very important because of its gas-rich resources. And then you have your Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan and Armenia, they were in conflict, but the conflict has been resolved. Nagorno-Karabakh, which has been captured by which country? Yes, it has been captured by Azerbaijan. It has been captured by Azerbaijan, and which is a corridor which joins your Azerbaijan to Turkey, which is a corridor which joins Azerbaijan to Turkey. That is Zangezur corridor. It joins Azerbaijan with Turkey. Zangezur corridor, and which is the country, and there is an exclave also. We'll see the exclave also, and here you have your Armenia, which is a country which is above Armenia and Azerbaijan. It is your Georgia. It is your Georgia, and it has two conflict places. Your homework is to find those two conflict places. Which is the country which is above Georgia? Which is a country which is above Georgia? It is your all-encompassing, omnipresent Russia. Now, Russia is the only country. It's the only country in this Central Asian countries. It's the only country or Caucasus countries which shares not only borders with Caspian Sea. It not only shares borders with Caspian Sea, but it also shares borders with which sea? It also shares borders with Black Sea. Burger, remember, B-U-R-G-E-R. R stands for Russia. R for the burger is all the neighboring countries of Black Sea. So it is the only country which shares borders with Black Sea. It is the only country which shares borders with your Caspian Sea, right? Okay. Now, so we have understood. So again, PAT and then AA, Azerbaijan and Armenia. PAT, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan. AA, Azerbaijan and Armenia. Because of they have asked question of Afghanistan, Iran is in the news, they might ask questions which are the countries. Ukraine, when Ukraine was in the news, they have asked countries which are bordering Ukraine, right? Which are the countries bordering Ukraine. Here, again, Iran is very much in the news, and there are too many countries which borders Iran, hence making Iran very important. PAT AA. And then we have Turkey. We have Turkey. Turkey also shares borders with whom? Turkey shares borders with Iran. So Turkey shares border with Iran, right? It shares borders with Iran. Then, apart from that, we have Iraq. Here we have Iraq. Here we have Iraq. And that's it. That's it. That's it. And there might be, I'll tell you the trick question. I'll tell you the incorrect options also. UPSC, if they frame this question, they will definitely have this as an incorrect option. I'll tell you. So, first, as we have studied for, we have P, just a second. We have P, we have P for Pakistan, we have A for Afghanistan, and we have T for Turkmenistan, right? PAT. Then obviously we will have A and A. A and A. A and A, that is your Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan and Armenia. And the corridor which tries to join Azerbaijan with your Turkey is your Zangezur. And then you have your IT, that is Iraq and Turkey. Iraq and Turkey. Iraq and Turkey. And as I promised you, I will tell you which is a country which UPSC will give it as a incorrect option. The country is no other country but Kuwait. It is no other country but Kuwait. Kuwait does not share boundary with Iran. Kuwait, country starting with K, does not share boundary with Iran. Remember that. And why so? Obviously, geographically where it is located. Here you have your Kuwait, and here you have Iraq. This is your Iraq, right? This is Iraq. It's a small country. It's a small country, right? And look, it is separated. This separation. This is a separation. This is a separation between Iran and here you have Kuwait. This is a separation, right? So Kuwait does not, remember, Kuwait does not share boundary with Iran. Which are the countries sharing border? PAT, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, then AA, Azerbaijan and your Armenia, and then IT, I for Iraq and T for Turkey. That's it, okay? And you will not forget, you will never forget. Okay, now, which is an important point, Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, we know that it has been hijacked by Iran. It's not letting ships pass, the ship pass. They bombard the ship, right? They bombard the ship, right? And why it is important presently, because obviously it's in the news, and this is very important. Now, this is again a mistake that usually people make. Strait of Hormuz, it is between Iran and Oman, and it connects Persian Gulf with Arabian Sea. Now, let's see, look. So, this section is again an exclave of Oman, because Oman is here. Oman is here. Oman is here. This is again a part. So, in between what it is? In between what it is? In between what it is? It is UAE. It is UAE, right? UAE. So, this is the reason why it is Gulf of Oman, and here you have your Persian Gulf, and this Strait of Hormuz connects what? Connects your Gulf of Oman with which? It connects Gulf of Oman with Persian Gulf. It connects Gulf of Oman with Persian Gulf. And again, this section, this is Oman, this is Oman, this is Oman. Right, this is Oman. Okay? Okay. Okay. Right. Now, again, remember this island. They can mention ki this island belongs to whom, right, or where? Larak Island. I'll show you where Larak Island is, right? So, Larak Island is a strategic monitoring point. It is a strategic monitoring point where, it's a lookout point, right? Now, physical features. Now, this is very important, physical features. Remember, there are three, what is the reason why it's very difficult to have, what is the reason why it's very difficult to have ground troops or a ground invasion in Iran. The difficulty in having a ground invasion in Iran is because of its physiographic feature. Its mountainous region, the mountainous region creates a barrier. The best example would be again in case of India, the mountainous, the Himalayan regions also creates a barrier. Like it's a very strong barrier for India and China, right? So one of the reasons we have studied. So in this case, there are three very important mountains. You have your Zagros mountain, right? You have your Alborz mountain, and then there is another mountain. So here, look, and it's very important. So there is this Aladag mountain. Here you have your Aladag mountain. This you have your Aladag mountain. Obviously, US cannot come from this region because here you have Turkmenistan, which is an ally of Russia. So it cannot come, Aladag mountain, right? Then you have your Alborz mountain. Here Alborz or Alboruz mountain, right? Alboruz. UPSC might ask a question because UPSC has asked about Vosges. Vosges is where? Where? Which country is associated with Vosges? France, right? France is on the western part of France. Eastern part of France, right? Vosges, right? So you have your Alborz mountain over here, and here you have your Zagros mountain, right? Here you have Zagros mountain, very important, very important. Here you have your Zagros mountain, and from Zagros mountain you have this Karun river. You have this Karun river. Now this Karun river joins what? Which another river? There is another river which Karun river joins to drain into where? Drain into Persian Gulf. Persian Gulf, very important. So which are the three mountain systems? Aladag mountain, right? Remember Aladag mountain is near Turkmenistan. It's very difficult for the NATO countries or the US to come from that side. Then you have your Alborz mountain. Here Alborz mountain, and then here you have your Zagros mountain, and here you have your Zagros mountain, and Karun river originates from Zagros mountain. It originates from Zagros mountain. Okay, it's one of the primary rivers of Iran. Okay. Now we have studied the desert system. Now let's understand obviously Iran. So we'll understand we have studied the mountain system. Now we'll understand the desert system, right? Where is it? Okay. So these are the important deserts. Which are the important? So Lut desert, right? And here you have your Kavir desert. Lut desert and Kavir desert, right? Lut desert and Kavir desert. So they are part of the plateau, central plateau, right? There's a central plateau, and Lut desert and Kavir desert are part of that plateau, right? And obviously you have your Caspian Sea in the north. Remember, Iran is between which two water bodies? Caspian Sea and Persian Gulf. Caspian Sea and Persian Gulf, right? Okay. Excellent. Chalo. Now, this particular island is in the news. UPSC might ask, Kharg Island, right? Kharg Island is administered by Iran. It has all the oil facilities, oil production, right? And US is planning to capture Kharg Island. Right? It is very important. Okay? Remember, Kharg Island, Iran, right? Acha, another lake, we'll see one lake which is a very important lake in Iran, right? And it is in the news, Lake Urmia or Urmia, right? Lake Urmia. So it is which part of Iran? It is to the northwest part of Iran. And why it is in the news? It is in the news for that 90% of this lake has dried up. But it's not a freshwater lake. It is a saline water lake, right? It is a saline water lake, and Lake Urmia is in the news. And why it is important? Because UPSC has asked question on that. UPSC has asked question on Aral Sea, which has dried up. UPSC has asked question on Lake Phagabin. Lake Phagabin is in which country? Lake Phagabin is in which country? It is in Mali. We have studied in West Africa. It is in Mali. Lake Phagabin is in Mali, right? And Aral Sea is between which two country? Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Majority is in Uzbekistan, a little portion is Kazakhstan. Like, right? Okay, remember that. And it is dried up, and we'll read Aral Sea also here, right? So we have understood, we have studied the physiography, we have studied the physiography, we have studied the physiography, we have studied Kharg Island. Remember Kharg Island, where oil production, like production and oil storage, right, happens, and US is planning to capture it, right? Okay. So again, Lake Urmia or Urmia, look, northwest, right? Okay. Now this is very important. Look, here you have Tigris, you have your Euphrates. Tigris and Euphrates does not flow through Iran. Very important. You make mistake over here. Tigris and Euphrates does not flow through Iran. It flows through where? It flows through Iraq. It combines into a river. We'll see the river. It joins here Tigris and here Euphrates. It joins and then it drains into where? Persian Gulf. And from here, what another river comes? We have remembered from Iran. It's Karun River, right? It's Karun River. And Karun River originates where? It originates in Zagros, right? Zagros. Here you have what? Elbruz. Here you have what? Turkmenistan, Alladag, right? Okay. Okay. Let's see Strait of Hormuz. Understand Strait of Hormuz, which is again very important. Like it's a big geophysical feature which is in the news, right? Iran closure of the Strait of Hormuz is an international crisis. Like last year when there was a bombing, Iran passed a declaration in its parliament that we are going to close Strait of Hormuz, but it was not effectuated. It was not effectuated, right? It was not effectuated, but in this case, they have completely stopped, not completely stopped. They have said that they will be allowing, friendly countries to pass through Strait of Hormuz, and obviously other countries cannot pass through Strait of Hormuz, and they will bombard those countries, right? Now, it is located between Iran and Oman. It connects Persian Gulf with Gulf of Oman and Arabian Sea. We have already studied this. Right? Then it borders Iran, Oman, and this is very important, and UPSC might ask a question. It is Musandam Peninsula. Where is Musandam Peninsula? This is your Musandam Peninsula. This is your Musandam Peninsula. This is your Musandam Peninsula, right? This orange part. So here you have Oman. As I said previously, here you have your UAE, and here you have your Musandam Peninsula. Here you have your Persian Gulf. Beautiful map. Persian Gulf. Here you have your Strait of Hormuz. Here you have a Gulf of Oman, Muscat, and here the entire region is your Arabian Sea. And we're missing out on one other important area, Chabahar Port. Here you have your Chabahar Port. Very important. Why? Because from here we have INSTC, International North-South Trade Corridor. From here it goes, right? And UPSC has asked a question on that. There's another important port over here, and that port also belongs to Iran. That is your Bandar Abbas. Your homework, understand why Bandar Abbas is important, why it is in the news. Like remember Bandargaon and like the ports are called in Hindi, right? So Persian and Hindi are very closer to each other. Like they have borrowed. Persian was our official language for how many centuries? Like over 3 centuries, 300 years. In Bengal, Persian was official language. In Bengal, Persian was the official language for 300 years, 3 centuries, right? Ultimately, the person called Thomas Babington Macaulay, brought down his minutes in which year? 1835, and declared there shall be only one official language, and that is Supreme English, okay, in which we are conversing, right? Okay, so remember, so Bandar Abbas and remember Chabahar, you have your INSTC, right? And Abu Musa Island, here you have like the image is not very clear. Here you have your Abu Musa Island. It is also very much in the news. Please, your homework, why it is in the news, please go through it. Here you have Qatar. So this is your Qatar. This is your Qatar, right? And here small island nation. Bahrain is a small island nation. You have your Bahrain, right? Obviously you have your UAE and Saudi Arabia, the behemoth, right? Oman is here. Oman is a very neutral country. It's a very stable country. Even though it's a monarchy, it's a very stable country. Oman also plays a role of a facilitator. India Prime Minister visited Oman, right? And most importantly, it plays a role of in this particular conflict, it plays a role of a facilitator. And just below your Saudi Arabia, there is your Yemen. Again, a very conflictual region, right? Okay. Right. Now, so Persian Gulf, we have, let's understand Persian Gulf. So, which are the countries which surrounds Persian Gulf? Very important. The countries which surrounds Persian Gulf is your Persian Gulf. So, the name Persia is here. If name Persia is here, then which country will have to be there is your Iran. Iran to rahega hi rahega. Okay. Iraq. Look, did I not tell that Iran does not share border with Kuwait? Iran shares land border with whom? It shares land border with only here, like in this case, Arab country, Iraq. Just look, this white stretch, like this white part, right? It divides your Iran from Kuwait. Kuwait city is the capital of Kuwait, right? So, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, remember, how do you remember that Kuwait shares borders with Iraq? Remember, there was this Kuwait and Iraq war in the 90s, where which was fought by which dictator? It was who initiated this war? It was initiated by Saddam Hussein. It was initiated by Saddam Hussein, and most importantly, chemical weapons were used. Qud missiles were used. KUDS, Qud missiles were used. Chemical weapons were used, right? The fight was between whom? Kuwait and Iraq. Kuwait and Iraq. Then below we have here Manama, that is the capital of Bahrain. Manama, that is capital of Bahrain. Then obviously we have Qatar, one of the largest producer of gases. 50% of India's gas comes from where? 50% of India's gas comes from Qatar. We have signed a long-term agreement with Qatar to supply gas. I'm forgetting the number of years, but long-term agreement with Qatar to supply gases. Its capital is Doha, UAE, Abu Dhabi, right? And obviously you have your Oman, its capital is Muscat. And this is your Musandam Peninsula. This is your Musandam Peninsula. So how do you remember which are the countries? We have your Iran, obviously Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. Then you have your Qatar, Bahrain, and UAE, and finally your Oman. And another important thing, if UPSC says that, like the incorrect statement wise, they might put that Turkey shares borders with, like in Persian Gulf. No. Turkey does not, right? Turkey does not. Turkey does not, right? Remember, only one country which shares borders with like two major bodies is Russia. Russia shares borders with Caspian Sea as well as Black Sea. Turkey, burgher countries, right? E for Erdogan. Erdogan is of Turkey. Turkey shares borders with Black Sea, but it does not share border with any other major water bodies. It does not share border with any other major water bodies. People might say Mediterranean Sea, but it's connected through many straits like Bosphorus Straits. Then you have your Dardanelles Straits, right? But not directly. Okay? Okay. Okay. Now remember, we have talked about there were two rivers. Like, so you have your Euphrates and you have your Tigris. Now Euphrates and Tigris. Euphrates and Tigris does not directly drain into the Persian Gulf. Here you have Persian Gulf. This is your Persian Gulf, right? It does not directly drain into Persian Gulf. Here you have your Euphrates. Here you have your Tigris. They join together, and then they flow here, and this is where Karun river comes and joins. This is where Karun river comes. It's a left bank tributary of which river? Which river? It's a left bank tributary of Shatt al-Arab. Shatt al-Arab. Shatt al-Arab. So Tigris and Euphrates, Tigris and Euphrates joins in Kurna. It joins in Kurna. Where is Kurna? Kurna is in Iraq. Kurna is in Iraq. Euphrates and Tigris joins in Kurna. Kurna is in Iraq and forms the river Shatt al-Arab. It flows. So here is Basra. Basra is a very important city. UPSC had asked about Basra, right? Very important city. It flows through Basra and then it drains here. But here you have your Karun river, which joins this particular region here. This is the region where Karun river joins. Karun river starts from where? It starts from Iran. Which mountain? Zagros mountain. Okay. Now, obviously, we have seen Persian Gulf. Let's see Red Sea. Now, Red Sea is in the news because of the Houthis. Houthis are associated with which country? Houthis are associated with Yemen, obviously, right? So, your homework, mention the name of India's particular mission. India's particular mission with regards to tackling piracy in the Red Sea, right? Okay, so Red Sea location between Africa West and Arabian Peninsula East connects Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean. Right. So here you have your Red Sea, right? Here you have your Gulf of Aden, Bab el Mandab Strait. We have studied Bab el Mandab Strait, and then you have Gulf of Oman, and then obviously your Arabian Sea, right? Then Suez Canal connects Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, that we have already studied. Gulf of Aqaba, northern extension leads to Israel, Eilat. We have already studied Eilat and Jordan, Aqaba, right? We have already studied this too. We have already studied this too, Israel and Jordan, Aqaba, right? We have already studied. Right. And Gulf of Suez, northwest arm of Egypt, Egypt, right? Okay. Another important UPSC has asked this question. That does any river flow into Red Sea? No, UPSC framing was no river flows into the Red Sea. And because of those tricks and all, like if it's an extreme statement, if it's negative statement, it is incorrect. And people started reasoning, no, it's no river flows in. There are certain seasonal rivers, there are certain daryas and all, but UPSC is not interested about that. Does any river flows into Red Sea? No river flows into the Red Sea. Does any river flows into the Persian Gulf? Yes, Shatt al-Arab, where Tigris and Euphrates, and of course your Karuna river joins and flows into Persian Gulf, right? Okay. Now, this is very important. Syria and Lebanon, both of them are in news. Syria is in the news because Assad government has fallen, obviously, and now the person who is leading is Al-Gholani or Jolani, right? He belongs from which region? It belongs from Golan Heights, and hence the name, right? And so he's very, very friendly with the US, right? We have seen that he visited White House, he visited the Oval Office, they sat, they discussed, so they're very close to each other, like very close, and against the previous regime, right? And he was actually designated terrorist. And obviously US saw their own advantage, so they removed him as a designated terrorist, right? And Lebanon is in the news. Why? Lebanon, obviously, it is because there is a conflict between Lebanon and Israel. It's going for some time, and the primary actor here is Hezbollah, right? One thing you have to remember: does Israel and Lebanon have a permanent border, United Nations designated border? No, it does not. It does not have a United Nations designated border because we have studied it is a blue line. It's an undesignated border, right? Okay, and it's part of Levant. Again, UPSC question is part of Levant. And let's see the bordering countries. So in case of Syria, let's remember, in case of Syria, which are the bordering countries? You have Turkey, Iraq, Jordan. We'll see it in the image, Jordan and Israel and Lebanon, right? So Syria, like very important, and UPSC might ask a question against Syria because Syria is in the news, right? Here you have Syria, you have your Turkey, here you have your Iraq, right? And here Jordan, Lebanon है यहाँ पर, ठीक है? And then your Israel. Israel is part here. Israel, हाँ, here Israel, right? Uh, right, right. So, so you have your Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, and Lebanon. It borders Syria. Syria is a big country, right? Now, Lebanon is bordered by which two countries? Or Lebanon is bordered by whom? So, Lebanon is bordered by your 90% it is your Syria, it engulfs Lebanon, and a small sliver is with Israel. This particular border is undefined, right? So there is a blue line. Remember, there is a blue line over here, right? It's undefined, right? Okay. So Golan Heights we have already studied, right? Mount Lebanon range parallel to the coast. So yeah. Then Euphrates River flows through Syria. Very important. Euphrates River flows through Syria. Okay. Now this is a very important thing. Now Quds, right? Quds is not a country. There are 4 regions or a 4 country, a section of those countries together form Quds. Which are the Quds regions? The regions are this: Turkey, Iraq, Syria, Iran, right? Turkey, a portion of Turkey, a portion of Iraq, Syria and Iran, and they are called Kurdistan, right? So they primarily they are not a country, and the capital is Erbil, right? And so they have conflict with major countries, right? So here you have Turkey, here you have your Syria, you have your Iraq, and here you have your Iran. So they together they form Kurdistan. Remember these 4 countries. That is more than enough. Remember these 4 countries. Now, when we are doing like West Asia and Middle East, we have to know about IMEC. So it starts from Mumbai. And very important. Does it incorporate Iran? No, IMEC does not incorporate Iran. Okay? Iran is not in the picture because it is with the Arabian countries. Iran, not Persia. Because with Iran, India already have what? We have INSTC. And it was IMEC is India's idea, right? It was India's idea. So it starts from Mumbai. It goes where? It goes to obviously So this is your Oman, and then here you have your UAE. Saudi Arabia plays a major role over here, and then does Israel involved? Yes, Israel is involved, and the most important port is Haifa port, right? Haifa port is involved. And then this region, this is your Greece. It ends in Greece, right? Piraeus, Greece. It ends in Greece. Okay. 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 Now we are done with our West Asia. Now we'll do Central Asia and we'll be done away with it. Now in Central Asia, it is important that we remember where the placement is. So obviously, like we know that formula UKTT, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, T for Turkmenistan, which is near to Turkey, and T for your Tajikistan. The other T is for Tajikistan. Tajikistan is in the news because India vacated its airbase, right? Now, this is the river system. Let's understand. This is the Aral Sea that we are talking about. So as I have said, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. It borders Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, right? Borders Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. This is your Caspian Sea, and very important to know which are the bordering countries of Caspian Sea, right? Let's see. The first bordering country is Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan does border Caspian Sea. So Kazakhstan borders Caspian Sea. Does Turkmenistan borders Caspian Sea? Of course it borders Caspian Sea, right? Turkmenistan does. Does Iran borders Caspian Sea? It does. Iran also borders Caspian Sea, right? Iran also borders Caspian Sea, right? So this is, okay. So does Azerbaijan borders Caspian Sea? Yes, Azerbaijan also borders Caspian Sea. Azerbaijan borders Caspian Sea. Here you have Georgia. Georgia. Does Georgia borders Caspian Sea? It does borders Caspian Sea. Does Russia borders Caspian Sea? Yes, Russia also, Astrakhan. Russia also borders Caspian Sea and river Volga. Remember, the largest River Volga drains where? It drains into Caspian Sea. River Volga into Caspian Sea. Volga into Caspian Sea, right? So which are the countries which borders Caspian Sea? You have your Kazakhstan, you have your Turkmenistan, you have your Iran, you have your Azerbaijan, you have your Georgia, and you have your Russia, right? So these are the countries. Now UPSC will play a trick. UPSC will say that Armenia, does Armenia borders Caspian Sea? No, Armenia does not border Caspian Sea because Azerbaijan बीच में आ जा रहा है, ठीक है? Azerbaijan is coming in between. Armenia does not. And again, if UPSC will frame a trap. It will say that does Uzbekistan borders Caspian Sea? Absolutely not. Because UKTT ना, UKTT में Uzbekistan यू आ रहा है, ठीक है? तो you might be thinking अच्छा ठीक है तो Uzbekistan हो सकता है, but no. Because why? So look, this is where your Uzbekistan border ends. And Kazakhstan starts from here. Entirety is Kazakhstan. एक पूरा ही Kazakhstan. It's one of the, as I told you, it's one of the largest country. It's one of the largest country. Right? Right. So Uzbekistan, does it share border? No, it does not share border. Right? Uzbekistan does not share border. Does does Armenia share borders? No, Armenia does not share border. Obviously, Turkey does not share border. Okay. So again, to reiterate, which are the countries which shares borders with Caspian Sea? एक बार देख लेते हैं जल्दी से. So नीचे देखिए ईरान है, ठीक है? Iran is there, right? Right? Iran is there. Then you have your Kazakhstan, ठीक है? Then you have your Russia, ठीक है? Russia also shares from here, right? Then ऐसे आ रहे हैं, ठीक है? Then which country shares border? Here you have your Georgia. Remember Georgia? Georgia. ठीक उसके नीचे we have Azerbaijan. ठीक है? These are the only countries which shares borders with Caspian Sea. Okay. Does Afghanistan shares borders? Of course not. Caspian Sea is very Afghanistan is the heart of Asia, or like it's part of Southeast Asia, so it does not. Okay. Now Central Asia. We'll finish in another 5 minutes, right? Kazakhstan is the largest. Right? Kazakhstan is the largest. Right. Kazakhstan is the largest country in Central Asia. It shares coastline with Caspian Sea. Right. As we said previously also, it shares borders with Kazakhstan is here. So largest country in Central Asia shares with Caspian Sea. Remember, world's largest producer of uranium. UPSC has this favorite areas, right? Like world's largest producer of nickel. It was which country? It was Indonesia, right? So world's largest producer of uranium, right? Key for India's nuclear fuel, and it supplies to India. Then major oil fields is Kashgan oil field is among the largest oil fields in the world. One of the largest oil fields in the world, and they're very natural resources wise. They're very rich, and that's the reason why we have this. Like India is trying to connect with INSTC. Right? Part of INSTC, obviously part of INSTC. Central Asia is part of INSTC, right? Borders with Russia and China. Okay? Right? And so Uzbekistan, remember, doubly landlocked country. Which is another doubly landlocked country in Europe? Doubly landlocked country in Europe is Liechtenstein, right? Central to Fergana Valley, very important. Mongoloid, Fergana Valley. Invasion in India, right? Who invaded India? Question, right? Who invaded India from this Fergana Valley, right? It's one of the fertile and densely populated, right? And part of India-Central Asia dialogue, right? These two rivers, and we'll map them, Amu Darya and Sir Darya, very important, right? And very important for cotton production. Amu Darya and Sir Darya, right? Amu Darya and Sir Darya. And historical cities are Samarkand, Bukhara, right? Samarkand, Bukhara. Just remember these cities, right? Because UPSC is asking old cities, right? Old cities. So like name of cities, like old names of cities. Turkmenistan, one of the world's largest natural gas reserves. Thus, Turkmenistan shares border with Caspian Sea. It does shares borders with Caspian Sea. It does shares borders with Caspian Sea. And hence, if you remember, I told key countries which shares borders with Caspian Sea, they are very rich in natural resources, particularly natural gas, right? And it is part of what? And because it's part of Caspian Sea, it was a Caspian Sea, and relate this, because it's copious amount of natural gas, right? Huge amount of production, and hence it's part of TAPI. TAPI for T for Turkmenistan, A for Afghanistan, P for Pakistan, and I for India. TAPI project is part of TAPI project, which is presently defunct. And obviously, you know what is the reason? The reason is obviously Pakistan, right? Now, this is a desert, Karakum Desert, which dominates the area. Kyrgyzstan, shares borders with China, Far East, right? Remember this mountain, very important, Tian Shan Mountain, very important, Tian Shan Mountain, and again, Issyk Kul Lake, one of the largest high altitude lakes. It's one of the, its largest high altitude lakes, Issyk Kul Lake. Part of Fergana Valley region, as I have said, like Fergana Valley is not limited to one country. So Fergana Valley, you have Fergana Valley in Uzbekistan also, in Kyrgyzstan also, right? Uzbekistan also, Kyrgyzstan also. Now Tajikistan, now Pamir Mountains covers major part known as the roof of the world, right? Roof of the world, Pamir Mountains. And so it's a very highly strategic security relevance for India, but this is an old news. Right, this is an old news because Aini Air Base has been vacated by India. Right, Aini Air Base has been vacated by India. Right, and this is close to Wakhan corridor. It is very close to Wakhan corridor. It's very close to Wakhan corridor. It's very close to Wakhan corridor, which is a link between Central Asia and South Asia. Now let's see in the map. एक बार map में देख लेते हैं, ठीक है? Which are the countries which borders? एक बार देख लेते हैं. South, your Caspian Sea, Iran, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Azerbaijan, right? I made a mistake. So Georgia does not share border with Caspian Sea. Georgia does not share border with Caspian Sea. Georgia does not share border with Caspian Sea, right? Okay. So here you have your Wakhan corridor, right? Afghanistan. This is a Wakhan corridor which joins China, and this is your India, right? This is your India, right? Wakhan corridor. Okay. Okay. And let's see the important mountain ranges. So these are the very important ranges, and please know their location also, right? So here you have your Pamir and Karakoram. Here you have your Kunlun Shan, right? This is a very important desert, Taklamakan Desert. This is in China, right? Here you have your Tian Shan, right? Here you have your Tian Shan, right? So remember that, and this is your Hindu Kush. This is your Hindu Kush. Okay? Okay. Okay. So basically, understand this region, Central Asian region, because UPSC has asked question. In last 5 years, they have asked twice. Last year, they have asked, right? So it becomes very important to just remember this region, and here geographical location is very important geographical location. Okay. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you.